Good morning, friends. Hello, everyone who's joining us. Thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful that you made it here. Cheers to a new Tuesday with our artist spotlight. Big welcome to Coldie for the artist spotlight within Light Art. For those that are new here to this space, hear the voice behind Light Art is Abrahani. My face should be down here, but co-hosting with me today is Hard Art, Milton. Good morning, Milton. How are you?
GMGN, Abrahani, how are you? Coldie, so good to be here. I see some friends in the crowd. Jose Antonio just moved over from my prior space. They closed down to be here. Good to see you once again. Raphael, Ada, I see Dr. Moon, I see Sketchlight, I see CO2. Awesome to see everybody. Would just encourage everybody, as usual, to give this room some love and some retweets and some comments, which will help fill it out even more. But thanks for having me once again, Abrahani.
Absolutely. Always grateful to have you. Good morning, Coldie.
What's up?
Your time is short, so how are you? A warm welcome. Thank you for being here.
Abrahani, nice to hear from you, and Milton as well. I'm stoked to be here. Yeah, it's a great day to talk about art.
Always a great day to talk about art. How fun. Milton, I'll let you get started.
Yeah, so Coldie, if you've ever tuned in before, we like to start with a pretty simple question, man, and tell the audience, for those who don't know, I mean, you're pretty damn famous at this point, but if you've been living under a rock, tell those who don't know you, who is Coldie?
Please, Milton. Hello, I'm Coldie. I am a mixed medium artist. I've been doing art for, about probably 20 years now. I started as a graphic designer, then I became an art director. And all through that time, I was finding my own voice, doing my own art pieces. And, I was doing my art thing for, 10 years. And then all of a sudden, NFTs came along and I was instantly sucked into that. I understood the rabbit hole when I saw the thesis. And ever since then, a lot of my practice has been digital and making NFTs and really experimenting and finding ways that art can do more than just hang on a wall. Art can help people. Art can mean something in different ways once you put a technology layer on top of it. So that's me in a super nutshell. I'm a 3D geek. Anything that has the illusion of depth makes my soul happy, and I think that it's a way that you can get one-on-one connection with a collector or anybody as soon as they put on 3D glasses or they see the 3D depth. It fools the brain, and that is what I'm here to do.
Let's go. And I wanted to go back to your history. Obviously, you have a long history in art, in creation, and in photography. And I know one of the coolest things that I discovered about you was how you create some of your images that come to life. And a lot of people, when they see some of the photos from the bands that you used to photograph, like the Flaming Lips, for example, or Foals, they see this little panning feature on the photo that toggles back and forth. And I always thought when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's two images that he must have taken like side by side, maybe a foot or so apart. But can you tell us about that little instrument, the device that you developed early on to create that effect?
Yeah, so I learned how to do, it's called stereoscopy, which is the use of multiple angles of view, just like your eyes. If you blink back and forth with your eyes and you look at something off in the distance versus close to you, there's a deviation, right? There's a parallax. So um, I figured out how to hack together two cameras that are the same distance more or less as your eyes, and I got a trigger on the camera, and with a lot of fiddling and maneuvering, I learned how to capture stereoscopic photos. And it's extreme. I mean, it's really easy if you're shooting a picture of like a vase and a tree because those things do not move. But if you're shooting a band live on stage, there's 1,000 different things that are happening all at once. So I took my love for 3D photography and literally jumped into the chaos of shooting bands live. And those pictures you're talking about, that's literally like the most thrilling art creation I have ever done and probably ever will do, because it's purely experimental. There's no guaranteed results, but when you do get a couple like banger shots, it makes everything worth it. I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Yeah, that definitely answered my question. I'm a huge fan of the stereoscopic work. I'm glad you reminded me of that word. I was racking my brain for that. But I got the chance to see some of that. I was traveling in London a couple of years ago after the Castle party and got to check that out in person. And then,
Oh,
as you mentioned, the 3D element that, I mean, that to me makes a 2D image 3D to a degree, right? Like that's step one. And
mm-hmm.
then afterwards, you can put on the Oculus. So at that particular exhibit at the Gazzelli Art House, I was able to put on the Oculus and then really step into a whole new world with your photography that just totally comes to life. I imagine you're really looking forward to when these devices are more ubiquitous. Are you building out for that future where we have something that's not a 15-pound clunky piece of tech hanging off of our head?
Yeah, it's funny. When I started shooting 3D pictures, it was 2006 or 2007, and I understood what this was, and I understood that that was it was the past and it's also the future. Like there's Viewmasters, there's 3D pictures from like the late 1800s. So this isn't like new tech. It's actually very, very old tech, but it's being redigested into VR. And my thesis, and I shit you not, for God, at least what 10 years was, in word for word, someday my photography will be able to be viewed in full color digital 3D. And that was my mantra. So I kept shooting these pictures. I kept knowing that someday tech would catch up. But until then, it was my job to be almost an archivist and capture these moments. And you could look at them with red and blue glasses. There's other ways, but my vision was, yes, that someday VR would be here. And the tech devs, it's like we're doing now. Like I knew the tech devs were going to do it. I had to hold that focus and do my part of capturing the images. And I'll tell you, the first time I put on an Oculus and I saw my pictures in 3D, I literally like broke down crying. It was a completion of that mantra that was the proof of all those years of shooting without having that feedback that I knew I wanted. And when I saw that, because you put the glasses on and it's shit. I mean, it's the same as looking at a 100-inch TV or whatever. It's like so in your face, like a theater. And it was even bigger and badder than I thought. So, and that's step one. There's all these new patents coming out about things that are basically 3D cameras and 3D depth sensors, and it's pretty fun to look back at those like Renaissance days where like nobody gave a shit. I was in a church basement where this 3D club held their meetings, and the average age was like 60 years old, and I was 25 at the time, and they're like, "Wow, like what are you doing here?" And they saw my passion for art and 3D and all this, and they all taught me the best methods for stereoscopy. I soaked up hundreds of years of knowledge through these people.
Well, I'm so impressed with your history. I'm very impressed with the story of how you got there. But definitely your passion for the art that you're creating, and you're ahead of your time. For most artists, right? Like creation is just like burning inside of us and like bubbling and coming out, and you were envisioning something that wasn't even out yet, which is so powerful as a creative, to be able to envision and create things for the future. And digital art is no different. So how did you come about learning about NFT and the digital art space that we now per se as a Web3. We call it Web3, right? It's a new digital age. How did you come about that?
My rabbit hole started with trying to like get more knowledgeable about finance. I went to art school. I focused a lot of my energy on creating. I was gonna say beautiful things, but a lot of my stuff was like really destroyed. So it's beautiful in different ways. But I was never really like made financially literate. So I just started watching podcasts and just kind of learning about the money system and, precious metals comes into play. And I understood that. And then, in 2017, somebody came on and was talking about crypto. And that, if you weren't around back then, that was like it was actually like right before the ICO craze was when I got into it. It was still like kind of boring, I guess. Bitcoin and Ether, and I think Litecoin was just getting listed, right? So, um, and it all just made perfect sense. Like I'm a techie. I've always been a techie artist. Like, I was always having friends build me computers. We were always, doing Napster and, you know, BitTorrents and all these like kind of nerdy computer things. Like I was building SimCity worlds. So all these different nerdy things completely clicked as soon as I heard the thesis of Web3, metaverse, all that stuff. I was like, I get it. I have a vision. And I went to Google and I typed in blockchain and art because I wanted to give back to this movement. Right? I was like, damn, this feels like a guerrilla thing. Like, how can I be a part of like the street team? So I typed in blockchain art, see what was going on, and there was literally like 5 projects. It was like punks, um, crypto kitties, Dada NYC, and the one that I went towards was Rare Art Labs, which were ERC20 uh, artwork tokens, like 721s, and the word NFT was not a thing. So I found that, and I sent them my stereoscopic 3D artworks, and just applied, and that was really the start of it.
And Coldie, so you talk about early days. I do remember seeing some of the culture pop up around 27, particularly CryptoKitties. So what was that launch like? You reached out to the platform, you submitted some of your stereoscopic photography, and then you were minting and selling on a platform. Like, what were those early days like as far as the infrastructure?
Yeah, back then, actually, I never did any photography. I was mostly at that phase of my artistic practice, I was working with like a lot of UFOs and kind of like post-apocalyptic landscapes. So that was my jam. And, I'd already created them. I had some in art shows. So I was, sending them what I'd made. And I always make the joke that they were like, I always envision them in like a 1 bedroom apartment, like totally like startup style. And one of the guys like yelling to the other guy that we got an email, because there was no action back then. There was no scene. So I wrote them, and like within, a couple hours, they wrote me back. They're like, dude, yeah, like you could be on the platform, like whatever you want. And, I uploaded, a series of, probably 3 or 4 works to start with. And there's no buyers. I mean, kind of like the early days with ETH, like 721, like it's the platform themselves. If they like something, they pick it up, or an artist to an artist purchase. Um, there was very, very little sales. Like my Vitalik portrait actually never sold a piece on there in like a year. So it was really like just about the art, and I looked at it much like just hedging and getting into a new sector, and I honestly looked at it like an online dating profile. It's like, yeah, you got to do your normal thing in life and live it, but why not make this other profile that maybe it's like a lot, like kind of like a cosmic lotto ticket, and who knows what will happen. And that ended up being the thing, right? So you never quite know what weird chance you take can take you to new places. So that's in a kind of in a nutshell what I did.
It's so impressive. Again, you're like breaking bounds and just trying new things how the is responding. And a lot of us jump into Web3 with not knowing really what we're doing, not really knowing the tech. So we have to learn the tech and all that, right? Dive in and figure it out, right? But also there's like this deep passion that no matter who's collecting or what's happening in the space, we believe in the tech, we believe in the future. And so we want to learn it and we want to implement it. And so, that drives me into community because you're here in the space thanks to Bryn who's here. She's listening down here. And I'm gonna start opening the space, so if you want to request and ask Coldie a question, please come up. But community drives a little bit of not a little bit, it drives most of us here, where we stay in community, we impact each other, we encourage, uplift each other, we push each other, and we put ourselves in front of other people and put other people in front of other people. And so that way our community just keeps building, keeps growing. Here at Light Art, we believe that we're like a bridge, right? And so how does community impact your time, but then also like your sales? I'm a holder of this Bitcoin that you did you can talk a little bit about that piece. But I feel like I got to know you in person through Milton, who's here co-hosting,
Mm-hmm.
me, which was so fun. Lisbon was a blast. For those that haven't been, he had an immersive experience there as well. And your presentations are just so fun. Um, but they're like you. I feel like art, and your art is so you, which I absolutely loved. Got to hang out with you. Now it's been a year and so, and so now I get to come back into what you're currently working on and what you're currently doing. So I have like a twofold question with all that I'm saying. I'm now oversharing, but community impacting your time here in this space. How does that impact your time here? But then, what you're currently working on and what you're bringing community into your work to help you do, which drives me into my second question with Bryn, introduced me to a project that you just recently did. And it's so cool to see how community is putting you in front of other people, but what you're doing, with the space, the NFT space, to bring it to people that don't really believe in the NFT world. And so I know there's a lot to unpack here.
No,
Let's just
I can unpack that all.
okay, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I got you. I totally follow. Yes, Lisbon was a vibe for sure. Um, and those speeches I gave, it was so funny. Like I've learned over life that for me, when I don't think about or practice a speech, it probably goes better. So I usually just like go up there and make sure the mic is hot and then just start talking. So that is truly authentically me. I'm not standing in front of a mirror with talking points the night before. I just step up there and go. So I appreciate you sticking around for those. So with community, um, my first real dose of community with Web3 happened when COVID hit, and I was part of the Bitcoin 2020 conference art gallery. And the year before was, I think, I don't know, it was one of the very early ones. It was in San Francisco, and it was like the homies of old school like Bitcoin art, right? Josie and Skrilla. Um, you had Crypto Graffiti, you had Gus Grilla, many who's who. And when COVID happened, it was literally like call it less than a month before.
So Milton, can you hear Coldie? I think he had to drop. No, we cannot hear Coldie. Um, we're hoping he comes back up.
Sorry about that.
Oh, cool, cool, cool.
That was my timer to say get off of Twitter. That was really quick for this morning. I've been on Twitter too much.
I love.
Um, it really doesn't stop me. It just tells me how much I'm using it. Um,
Very cool.
so anyways, back to the story. So COVID hit and there's this big Bitcoin show. And I was like, you know what? Me, including all these other people, had put so much work into it. I was like, you know what? Screw this. So I built a 4-plot mega parcel art show in crypto voxels. And I did it real quick, right? It was just like some boxes of rooms. And I wrote everybody and said, hey, send me some JPEGs, send me a link. We're having an art show. Like, we will not be stopped. We will share our art. And I just wanted everyone else as artists to be able to show their stuff. What I didn't fully comprehend, the world was in such a state of fear and uncertainty and stuck at home, that it was like this breath of fresh air, that the whole, like, literally, like, I felt like the whole community was showing up. And in 3 days, I had 5,000 visitors to the event. People were calling me or writing me, like, basically in tears, saying, hey man, like, I've been at your show for like 6 hours for 3 days straight because it's it's giving me this release, and I can talk to people, and I'm so, I'm freaking scared, so thank you. And it hit me extremely deeply, right? Like, I'm a very caring person, but I, like, being like a community builder, I wouldn't ever have put on my like resume, but that was a community build, right? And that is what really kept, like, that was the start of it. After that, I, at the same parcel, I did a charity for feral cats called Kitty Bungalow. And we sold $20,000 in ETH artworks for them, right? So they freaking named a wing of their cat. This one cat room is the Coldie cat room, like where the intake cats go. So I was pretty honored by that. So, like, I'm building community with cats, right? I helped Monogramma. I did a portrait to help spread awareness for the Amazonian tribe that they're helping. So, like, I really feel like giving back and paying forward, there's a cycle that happens, and it becomes this loop, right? And I think that we all will be in that loop of need at some point, right? And there's no selfishness to it, but I know that there's a flow where it's like, I want to give and be helped by other people. Like, when we are, I guess, to phrase that is like, when we're in need, community is there for you. So I think it's important to foster a community, right? Um, so that is really like my ethos now. And to jump ahead, you can interject. I'll keep talking. If you want to ask a question, you can cut me off, or I'll just keep going. Um, so I was at a concert, with my wife and some friends, enjoying our time, seeing my favorite band, Pearl Jam. It was my 34th show, and just enjoying the night. And I've seen so many Pearl Jam shows, and they're all unique. They don't play the same set, so it's always fun. And out of nowhere, Eddie Vedder, much respect. He loves to rant and do his thing. So to each their own. Whatever. So he's talking, and we're listening. I'd rather hear some songs, but whatever. And then he starts talking about. I'll post the link. You can listen to him. But basically, what he's saying is, hey, we have all these like political fundraisers for money, really expensive things. Why can't we just use this money to feed like people in need, like the homeless? Why can't we just use this money for that? And that resonated with me. But then he talked about these, and I'll quote this part. He said, oh yeah, there's these things, NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And I think that means they're not worth a shit. Okay. And this is my creative idol. Like, I literally started making art because of the creativity and raw energy of Pearl Jam, straight up. And through the years, they've always been this, like, pillar of doing it, right? Going for it and doing it, right? So I'm listening to this guy on stage, like, and then all of a sudden he proverbially shits on not only a community I love, but a community that has so many talented and good people in it. that I was like called to action. You know, it wasn't like I didn't go into that weekend thinking, oh man, I'm gonna do a portrait of Eddie Vedder, right? Like that was never a thought in my mind because there has to be a reason for the art, right? I don't make 3D bouncing balls. There has to be a reason for art. And he raised his hand. And I was like, wow, Ed, okay. So we are a we are a permissionless world, and especially in Web3. And I thought long and hard about this. And my friend Black Tongue, I'm not sure if he's in here. Black Tongue was with me, and like we both had this like existential moment where it's like, what do I do? Like, how do like I felt it in my heart. I felt sad that I heard that, but then I was also like empowered by it. I was like, wait. We're going to turn this script around because I'm not going to let that be said about a medium I know is going to change the world. So I'm going to make a message of love to Ed through Pearl Jam's foundation. It's called the Vitalogy Foundation. I am going to make art to raise money for the homeless people he was talking about using the tool that he said wasn't worth a shit. So that's the backstory of that.
I love it so much. Yeah, Brent introduced me to that through a text. I mean, just here on Twitter. And I just think the power of community and what we could do together. For those that don't know about the digital art space and what's happening here, the reality is that a lot of FUD is going on, right? Through the gamified NFT and different things and, or the bad investment that people do, but they don't understand the space and they don't understand the art side of the space either. And so what a perfect way for you to introduce the reality of what could be in our space. And I love that. I love the initiative. Bryn is here. So thank you, Bryn, for bringing that to my attention. I do think that there's so much power that we could do with community and we can rise together and, started an initiative. Milton, I don't know if you have a rebuttal here, but I love this initiative. So I've posted it here on top on the Jumbotron. If you want to support this, um, this action and you want to support Coldie in this message towards one of his art idols, Eddie Vedder, I think you should take a look. I know that a few people have already collected. It's an edition, so you're welcome to see it. I
And
think we're so curious to see this in a 3D environment. But go ahead, Coldie. You wanted to.
and to expound on the release itself, I did this recently with a Jack Dorsey portrait where I took an animation and I split it up into frames. So it's technically like a one of 300, where each frame will be its own unique slice of that animation. So you will be getting different croppings. Um, and it's a way to support the vision of this portrait without buying a one of one, right? And I think that it's a really kind of tasty way to consume animation is to like get frames because there's maybe there's different frames that people like and it kind of takes on a life of its own. But if you look at the piece, I want to bring attention to one other thing is that at the end of this speech, okay, he kind of trailed off into some other things, but at the very end, and I don't know how the hell this was like. Raise your hand if you've seen Field of Dreams. I would love to know anybody in here who's seen that movie, Field of Dreams. There's Black Tongue. What's up, dude? I just gave you a shout out. I don't know if you heard that, but you rock. So Field of Dreams, okay? This Kevin Costner goes on this epic quest. It's about baseball, but it's not really about baseball. It's about everything else in life and synchronicity. And it was like me and Black Tongue were at Fenway Park, and we looked up at the jumbotron, and we saw a message, right? And like that, like literally, I think it's my favorite movie ever. And I was living fucking Field of Dreams, right? So at the very end of the speech, he says, "We need lifting, not grifting." And he walked off the stage. And to most people, they're like, probably what is grifting? Because that's not really a normie phrase. but I can't tell you how deep, like me and Black Tongue looked at each other, like with the big eyes, like, what did we just hear? And like, duh, like we got grifters, it's a phrase. And so I used X copy grifters as, elements in the piece, right? Because it's CCO, thanks X copy, right? It's for the culture, right? So I used X copy. I actually used a forehead for a cheek, and then I used the background stars to like light up the sky behind the palm trees that were at the actual festival, right? So it fucking worked, right? So I think it's even bigger because not only is this, looking out for homeless people who, people in need and all that, but it's also bringing the culture together in several different ways, right? So I'm super proud of it. There's been a great response to it. In no way was this sanctioned or cleared with uh, Eddie or anybody. This is an artistic statement of love from one artist to another, just with the hopes of education and, continuing a conversation. So that, next time he feels so negative on NFTs, I want him to remember the sizable donation that us, the NFT community, sent them, right? Like it's literally, this is a charity flex moment, right? Where I think it matters, um, not only to help as many people as possible, but to help a person who has a platform that talks and has clout, that person understands that, well, maybe they aren't as educated as they thought, and maybe that we can help inform, right, and not persuade, but just show through action that we are literally the future here right now, and we can work together.
Dude, I love this so much, and I've been staring at this animation the whole time. I don't know how, but that grifter didn't stand out to me until you mentioned that. Maybe that's because it's the head shifted 90 degrees
Yep, yep.
as a cheek instead. But wow, what a serendipitous moment for him to say the word grift, because obviously that word resonates in our community very strongly, for good and for bad. But definitely the grifters from XCOPY are recognizable. Now I catch that piece. So this is a super cool collection, man. And I'm curious what your thoughts are. I know Eddie Vedder is one of your idols. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to meet him. I know you have been front row to so many of these shows through your Stereo Man magazine early on in your photography career. But I love the idea of you flipping this stereotype on its head, because NFTs do have a black eye for many reasons, a lot of them justified, and we get thrown in with some of the bad apples that happened through the mania of 2021. But it looks like you're going to raise at least 30 grand, and I just wanted to point out that some charitable auctions are a portion of the proceeds go to this 501c, but it looks like 100% of your proceeds are going, so it's going to raise at least 30,000 plus. We haven't talked about the silent auction under your namesake method, the Coldie method that's taking place as well. So collectors do have an opportunity as well to bid for a silent auction of a one-of-one animated portrait too. So at least 30,000 plus that one-of-one is all going to this Vitalogy project. So bravo, man. And I'm
Yeah,
curious,
thank
like,
you.
what's your conversation going to be like if you were to get Eddie's ear through this effort of yours, and maybe he'll take note after 30,000 plus is raised for his project. What would you like to say to Eddie if you had his ear for a moment?
But yeah, it's crazy the amount of similarities in this world, and lack of differences. It's actually pretty nuts. Like his family comes from the small same town I did, right? Like it's literally 1 degree of separation of somebody he knows that I know. And I've that's never been, it's not even a thing. Like I met him and got an autograph one time. I didn't tell him about all that shit. It didn't matter, right? But if we sat down and had a conversation, there's a really humanizing level set, right? Like we're cut from the same cloth. Um, at one show, I'll have to bring this up. I went alone to a Pearl Jam show, which I actually love going to concerts alone. I was rocking out, doing my thing, and it was the very first time I went to a Pearl Jam show not wanting anything, because there's set lists and there's picks and there's drumsticks, blah blah blah, right? All these things. And I, over the years, collected. I've been lucky, and I have some of those things. And I was like, you know what? I went into that show saying, I'm good. I don't want that. It's going to pollute my brain trying to get. And at the very end of the show, they're singing Alive, which is their biggest hit. If you haven't heard it, please crawl out of a rock. And Jerry Cantrell was playing with them from Alice in Chains. It was sick as fuck. And I'm just dancing. I've been rocking my ass off all night. I did not give a fuck about anything. And he walks over. I'm like 12 rows back. I'm pretty deep. He points to me. And I did this thing like me, I like pointed to myself, and he nodded his head and he tossed a tambourine 12 rows back, and I caught it, right? It was like, oh man. So I caught that fucking tambourine, and it was that moment is one of the most significant moments of my life, because it taught me that once you let go and get rid of anything that you need, that's when the universe provides. And it happened fucking fast, right? And I was like, holy shit. So like I would tell him that story, right? So, and like we're there's the great thing about this is there's nothing like negative. I'm not using his face to profit. I could get that, like, oh, you use my face and make all this money. It's like, no, I made no money, right? Like, income is great, but culture and helping supersedes that for me, right? Like, I would rather pay it forward super hardcore than to like cut some off for myself. It just didn't make sense on this one. So, um, I would love to have that opportunity. Whether he sees it or not is actually not even really the point, because we do things without needing anything back. So when that money gets donated and people that don't have food are fed, then the job is done.
Well, thanks, Coldie, man. It's a selfless act. We appreciate it. The art is incredible as always. So get out there and collect one of these one of 300 still frames of the animation. Help support a good cause. And I know you're genuine, Coldie, because some people say what you just said, but haven't lived it. And so having the experience supporting other charitable causes and being in this space before it was a financialized space at all, I know that's a genuine statement. So I can appreciate that advice of letting go too. And speaking of letting go, as interesting as we are on the stage, Abrahani, myself, and Coldie, we want to let go of the mic a little bit and pass it off to you. We've been doing our best effort to make sure that we include the community for more than just the last few minutes of Q&A. We really want to have sort of a couch vibe where we're all sitting, chatting, vibing. So we would encourage you, if you're in the audience right now, to come say hello. Black Tongue just got the shout out. We'd love to hear from you.
And I can I give one more shout out
Yeah.
before we go? CO2, okay? He's in the audience right now. I have seen so many formative shows with CO2, Pearl Jam being one of them. We toured the US, we toured the West Coast together. Like, me and CO2, like, he is my earliest community, and I fucking love him. Like, seriously. And as soon as, like, we got reconnected through NFTs, and when this happened, he went gangbusters. He's like, I'm going to share this with everybody in the Pearl Jam community. He started getting retweets from Pearl Jam's poster designer from that festival. Like, so real shout out to a true old time homie that's bridging Web3 to Web2. That, because we are in an echo chamber, okay? And I implore anybody who has access to Web2 to just share these things, right? Because we can be so proud about ourselves. Oh my God, we're amazing. Which, yeah, we're doing great stuff. But if we could get out of this loop and into the bigger loop, that's literally where the game changes. So CO2, love you, dude. You're awesome. And I appreciate everything you've done, and with no ask. there's been zero ask. So I just appreciate you. All right, game on.
Game on. So CO2, the invite is directly to you, my friend. If you want to come up and share some of those formative concert experiences, I see that you are rocking Chris Cornell there and Soundgarden as your PFP. So I'm sure there's some good stories to tell about those shows. But anybody and everybody is welcome. So please don't be shy. Hit the request button. We'd be happy to get you up on stage. We want this to be a conversation. We don't want to be talking at you. We want to be talking with you. So yeah, please, anybody and everybody, especially those who got shout outs, Black Tongue, CO2, feel free to come and join us on stage. As we await that, Abrahani, anything that you wanted to chat on that we hadn't covered quite yet?
Yeah, well, Bryn is up on stage, and I am dying to hear her speak because she collected a piece also. And both Bryn and I have a passion for um, helping people and donating to causes that we feel very passionate about. And this is donating to friends that are in the streets that need food. And it also allows us the cause to get people that don't know about NFT space to start learning about NFT space and the impact that we can have. And so definitely a big supporter of this project. But Brent, welcome to the stage. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for putting this project in my face.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, Annie, you were cutting out a little, but I think I heard enough. So can you guys hear me
Yeah.
okay?
Hello.
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot to say. I just, I don't even remember how I came across this, Coldie, but I saw it. I follow you. I guess it just popped up because I'm not sure how I saw it, but I know I messaged or talked to you a little just how much I love the idea and that like my husband and I have a nonprofit. We work in a couple countries in Africa and Pakistan. So I spend a lot of my life like trying to give and help other people. And then I had shared with you that from my first collection back in 21 on OpenSea, I had 50 wildlife images and I gave 50% of those sales to environmental orgs that are protecting mainly wildlife, mainly grizzly bears and wolves in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem where I spend most of my time. And it was so cool to like have a significant impact because I was giving to smaller organizations that I know and trust there, that are fighting in the courts and everything. So I just love when anyone, puts stuff out there. I've loved Pearl Jam, I've been to one concert, but I'm pretty old for this space. So I remember going like at midnight to get their
Mm,
second album at the record store. Like
mm.
that's my time back in the 90s. Like just, dying to like get it the second it became available. So I love Pearl Jam. I was so sad that you shared this story and I love what you're doing in response to it. Also tried to do a lot for unhoused people here in Boulder County. So it just kind of hit me on every level. And I love what you're doing. And I was so stoked to collect one. So thank you.
Oh man, that means the world. Thank you for being a part of it. And obviously, you know what the butterfly effect can do when you start helping and the waves it makes. And I think that it's just a beautiful thing. So hats off to you as well. It really takes all of us finding our own like niche passions, right? If we could all have a passion, imagine what we could do, right? And we're doing it. So I think, man, I always get so emotional on these things. It's just a really beautiful thing. I love our community, and I've been there. You took me back to Tower Records midnight sales for Pearl Jam albums. I have been there, so cosmically we were there
I know
together.
it's hilarious. I'm like, I don't know how many
Oh
people
yeah,
ever
yeah,
did this,
I did that.
but
Oh, yep, I remember that was the jam. R.I.P. Media. Wow. Yeah, but thank you so much for this. It was great chatting with you. Meeting new people through this is the bonus round, you know. And it's far from over. I mean, that's the great thing about a charity drop. I mean, if you know me, I don't even care about like sellout times or anything like that. Like I still have pieces that are unsold for 5 years. I don't, someday they'll find a home. This one's great because when it finds the right people, part of it. Like there's not a timeline for charity, right? Like, so I think, the more that we can share it and get it out there and kind of build momentum through it, then it'll find its own way, right? So, it's fun to get out there. There's 10% minted over the weekend, which I thought was a great start. And from there, at a certain point, you get out of your own way and just let momentum and that the butterfly effect of synchronicity start happening, and that is where the real momentum starts happening.
Thanks, Bryn, for coming in and saying hello. Sounds like you guys have some parallel missions. And yeah, I definitely think it comes back to you. Not that you're doing these actions expecting a return, but I think somehow karma finds a way to pay you back for sure. You've given us some good lessons today, Coldie, as we await anybody else that wants to come up on stage. And I sure hope I'm not interrupting Bryn. I can't see her as a speaker, so please call me out if I am. But did want to invite other people up to the stage. In the meantime, I did have a question, Coldy, because you've given us some good advice today. I think one thing that I've learned from you, speaking to you over these few years, is show up, act like you belong. Whether that's like developing your own magazine so that you get front row at the shows, or just reaching out. I love your description of the early platforms, like one nerdy guy pushing up his glasses with a neck beard in a dark room behind a laptop, like, hey dude, I belong here too. Like, put me
Yep.
on.
Yep.
So act like you belong, I think, is a good message. Obviously the giving back and charitable function is a good message. I think you just touched on a third one, which was to get out of our bubble. I think that's really challenging because a lot of us live here in this bubble, myself included, but I think it's smart to try and get out and onboard other people. But is there any other advice that you would give to and I'll put this in two lenses of perspective, to artists, because we got a bunch of creatives in the room, but also to collectors, because you're also a big collector yourself. Any advice, maybe specifically to artists, and separately to collectors in the room right now?
I think my overall advice to artists is don't wait for something to give you the permission to do what you need to do. Um, when you feel like you need to do it, then make it happen and then do something else. I feel like there's a lot of planned stagnation when markets might not be hot, right? When people feel like their art will be better received, when a thing is a certain way, or the cards are aligned in some way that isn't happening right now. And I think you can take your power back by getting outside of that loop and just doing it and understanding that you made an expression and that's what matters. Um, and if you also want to think it logistically, if you wanted to wait for a bull run to release your art, probably the worst time in terms of getting people to look at your art, because there's going to be about a gazillion releases. So taking money out of it and all that, get out of your own way and make that thing that's in your head. And then when you're done making that thing, make another thing. For collectors, much the same thing. But in this respect, don't follow the herd, follow your heart. Find causes and artists, do some research, find out who you're collecting, what and why they're doing what they're doing. And first of all, buy art because you love it, and if it goes to zero, you still love it. But I think if you're really wanting to help the space, um, collect things you love and proliferate that love to the people around you, and whether that's family and kids, your family or your people you work with, and other people who like art. We really all have to be more vocal than we probably want to be, because it's the community that builds, like, it's the tide is going to raise all ships. Like, we have to get outside of our comfort zone, like every single one of us.
Such great advice. Nuggets there, mic dropped. So amazing, Colby. You are um, so creative with your words and impactful with your words, but also with your art and your creativity. I know your time was short, so you could tell me if you have time for one more. Austin is on stage.
Yeah,
Austin
let's
Hamblin.
do we'll do Austin, and I'm out in 4 minutes.
Okay, sounds great. Well, Austin, welcome to the stage. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Hey, GM guys. Good morning to you. What's up, Coldie?
What's up?
Hard Art. You mentioned the Trevor Jones Bitcoin Castle party. I was there. I believe we talked. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you helped Trevor Jones with one of the previews that he was showing up on the big screen whenever we started the party. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a very small part of the team, but I usually
Okay.
chip in where I can. Yeah, man. Good to see you, dude.
I think we met in the bathroom, actually.
That sounds about right. I'm usually like taking any good excuse to chat, and if it's quieter in the bathroom, I can actually hear somebody, then I'll take that opportunity.
I walked in the bathroom, and it's Scotland. I'm in the U.S. and they have those troughs, and I'm just like, I see Hard Art. He's got it in his name, and I look over. I'm like, man, I gotta say what's up to this guy. And yeah, no, I just wanted to say what's up to you, brother. It's been a few years since the party. It's gone so quick. So just wanted to say hello, and then also Coldie, shout out to you, brother. I've been I got one of your pieces, your physicals, two of them up
mm,
here on the wall.
thank you.
Um, One of them is the NFT gallery, the auction poster from August 10th, 2021. You got the
Wow.
signature on it.
Wow.
It's got the stereoscope 3D. I do have the glasses too, so if I want to look at it with the glasses, I can put those on.
That's
And
epic.
then I got the Coldie 21 million. I can't pronounce this guy's name to save my life.
Oh, Andreas Antonopoulos.
Yes, yeah. Bitcoin has died 358 times. That guy.
Yeah, that's old school. That's awesome. I wonder how many times it's died now. I should revisit that number. It's probably doubled.
Well, again, thank you guys for having me up here. I don't want to take too much time, but thank you guys for hosting the show. Love always having you, Coldie, having to talk to you. So you guys take care, and I'm gonna hop off. But great show, and thank you guys again for having me up.
Thanks, Austin. Good to talk to you again.
Thanks, brother.
So fun. Awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on. And for all those that did come up and have spoken here with Coldie, I know Coldie's very responsive to any message. So there's a little chat box down here. We want to say something that you didn't have time to say or you couldn't come up and you wanted to say to Coldie, feel free. A little announcement here with Light Art, Mejamo Art. We are starting a new initiative. And so we invite you back tomorrow for a conversation with our new initiative with um, our mentorship program with Light Art, and we will be talking with the mentors. We'll be discussing, and if you have a question that you want to ask or if you have not applied, I'll post that up again. But please visit our site, our Twitter space here. Tomorrow, Light Art will be hosting a space specifically for a mentorship program, and so we would love for you guys to join in. But with all of that said, Coldie, any last words that you want to leave us with?
Uh, just thanks for asking me to be here today. It's awesome to just talk to friends and um, you know build community and talk about stuff. I'm like you said, I'm an open book. If anybody wants to say hi or reach out, you can shoot me a DM. We can talk. But yeah, there's lots going on. I'm super excited about everything that's happening. Um, yeah, there's so much going on, but I appreciate you all. I appreciate everyone who's doing philanthropic initiatives, and I just implore everybody to do something for somebody else without having something that you want back.
Such a great advice. Create because you want to, create because
Yeah,
you love it, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's your biggest takeaway here. You have so many great quotable takeaways from this space, which I'll be listening back to and writing down because I think they're so important to remind ourselves when we're feeling a little down. And so this has been so good. Coldie, thank you so much for your time. We so appreciate you. For those that don't know, that initiative that Coldie is having, it's available through Manifold. And so go pick up your edition and be a part of this initiative that he's bringing. Lifting, not grifting. I love that quote. So thank you so much, Coldie. We so appreciate you. Milton, any last words?
Go get that edition. Yeah, I have the Jack Dorsey one. I love these one of one of 300s that you're doing. I think there's some great animators in our space doing these type drops. So big fan, and I look to support as well. But thank you for dropping gems on us once again, Coldie. Good to hear from you. You've been here forever. You're not going anywhere. Thanks for staying through the ups and the downs, and I appreciate you sharing so much knowledge with us today.
Absolutely. I have no choice. My only tangible thing is making art. So I cannot leave. It's the only thing I can do.
So
Th-
grateful.
Thanks everybody. Have a really great day.
Have a blessed day.